darkness, the absence of light. We lived in the light once, briefly, but we pushed it away. Blinded by our desires, we didn't realize what we were doing. But in the end, we brought this darkness upon ourselves. It became our home. You live in the dark for so long, it becomes normal. You find yourself wondering if there ever really was a light to begin with. But as we struggled to make the best of our situation, deep down, somehow we knew. We knew we were not meant to live in the dark. We were meant for more. And then one day, something unexpected happened. We woke up to a strange glow on the horizon, almost as if there was a great light approaching. We didn't know we could trust it. Is this even real? But it was real. The sun had returned. What a light that spilled over the horizon. So much bigger, so much brighter, so much warmer than we ever dared imagine. It cut right through us, piercing our darkened hearts, burning away our shame and guilt, and flooding our hearts with joy. A joy so unspeakable, so unimaginable, that all of creation lifted their voice in song to the one who returned with the light, a baby in a manger, the hope, the world. There is a light that shines in the darkness. Oh, there is a
A number of years ago, quite a few years ago, I was a teenager, short time ago. They did say all the stuff that was happening up the front today was going to be, other than the 3 adults, they said, you hear that? Other than 3 adults, all of them will be the youth, so I appreciate I was included in that category. When I was a teenager, I went camping with a number of friends, a group of guys went out, and near where we camped, we found a hole in the ground. Very exciting, yes, I know. We can only assume the hole was like a tree had rotted out and the roots had kind of gone out. And so we didn't know that at first. So, of course, it was quite a deep hole. We couldn't see the side. So, of course, first thing we did was grab a guy by his ankles and lower him down to inspect the hole. Of course, as soon as he said, yep, there's no dangerous animal in there, drop him in the hole and then return to our camp and see if he could make it out of the hole on his own. That was fun for a while. He couldn't. And then we went back, and as the night went on, we just, try to figure out how many games we can play with a hole in the ground. One game ended up being, how many people can we fit in the hole in the ground? And so I was game enough to put my hand up to go in quite early on in the game. And we wanted to pack as many guys. I think there was about 18 of us there. We want to see, can we fit all 18 guys in this hole? And so I went in first, and I kind of lay sideways, wrapped myself around underneath the caved-in bit on the side, so maximise the amount of people that was in there. Now, I think it's taken my whole life journey to figure out I'm claustrophobic. I look back and I think there were signs. I should have figured this out sooner. This was one of those moments. As people came in and climbed in and lay down on top of me and beside me, and we're fitting as many people lying down in this hole as we could, I suddenly had this moment. I realised I cannot move. Right, and guys are still getting in. I don't know what they're doing. They're taking their sweet time is what's happening as they climb in there on top of us, the weight of pressing in around us. I suddenly, had this overwhelming moment of freaking out. Of course, stronger than that feeling is my ego, surrounded by a group of guys. And so I had to tell myself, just calm down, just hold still, you're fine. There was, through the pile of boys on top of me, looking out at an angle, I could see a single star in the sky. I don't know how there was a gap in the pile, but I could see a single star. And that single star just reminded me there was some oxygen still available in that hole. And as we lay there, that's the one thing I kept my eye on. A single star in the pitch black, up on this mountainside, piled on by a group of guys. Now, we got all 18 in the hole, a very important piece of information, and everyone survived, and end of story. It's amazing, right, how much hope something so little can give us. And I feel like as we think about the image of light, the gospel can often feel to us, the good news about Jesus can often feel like that star. At times it feels so distant, so small, and yet it can still, in those moments, be a profoundly hopeful thing. In reality, though, I think the good news about Jesus is far greater than that. And I think in reality, the good news about Jesus is much more like a sunrise that breaks the darkness of the night. But we often don't feel like that because I think often we are more surrounded by darkness than we are surrounded by light. It doesn't feel like at times we're surrounded by this breaking in. It's quite profound that this huge ball of plasma off light years away could give such hope to someone lying in a hole. But the hope of the gospel is so much greater than that. That the God of the universe who made us came and became one of us so that we might be united back to him. And the message of the Bible is clear that we are surrounded deep in darkness. We didn't read it. The verse on the screen there, one of the verses that came up was Isaiah chapter 9. Isaiah is a prophet in the Old Testament, and a big part of his message to God's people was, if you don't put your trust in God, he says, we are surrounded by darkness, and if you don't put your trust in God, other nations are going to come and invade, they're going to take over, and that darkness is going to overcome you. But for Isaiah, the darkness is not entirely the suffering that comes from being invaded by another nation, though he depicts that really strongly. For Isaiah, the darkness is far greater than that. For him, the greatest darkness is the lack of trust in God. For him, the greatest darkness is rejecting God in the first place. And then as nation invades, first it's Assyria, comes from the north. As nations invade, the question that Isaiah wants to ask God's people is, where are you going to run to? Who are you going to look to? And he would say, because if it's anywhere other than God, you are running deeper into darkness. And that's what we see. In fact, we looked at the verse from Isaiah 9, but this is the chapter just before it. He says things like, call your councils of war, but they will be worthless. develop your strategies, but they will not succeed. He's saying when you start to look to other things other than God, you are going to be running into deeper darkness. He says that's true if you go for the military solution, or if you go for the spiritual solution. He says, let's ask mediums and those who consult spirits, and they will be useless. There's the message that if you run anywhere other than the one true God, you are running deeper into darkness. The video we watch starts with the line, darkness is the absence of light, which is true. But also, when it comes to what Isaiah's talking about, there's something worse than just the absence of light. He would say when we are seeking false light, then we are going deeper into darkness. And there's a danger when we're in darkness. That is, if we walk in the wrong direction, if we walk away from the light source, it gets more dark. We go deeper into darkness. And so when we're walking towards a false light, it doesn't bring us to illumination. It brings us to greater darkness. I think a great example of that is the myth of like sirens, that, the story of sirens singing a song luring pirates, luring sailors to their death. It's depicted really comically and fun by Ice Age. I've used this illustration before, but in the movie Ice Age, these sirens, each character sees them as a different way. I got the picture on the screen here. Sid the sloth sees a beautiful female sloth who then chucks up regurgitates some food, and he says, "Oh, and she can cook as well." The granny sloth, she sees this hunk of a sloth who forces out a mustache on demand, and he says, "The prunier the raisin, the sweeter the fruit." And Granny says, "Oh, Granny like." And Manny sees his wife and his daughter, the people he's looking for, his heart's desire, and they're all lured to these creatures. Of course, Manny sees his wife who says to him, "Manny, you're right. You're always right." And that's the thing that breaks him out of it. It's too good to be true. He goes, "This is clearly not true." And he breaks out of it. And they realize, if you go to the next slide, that they're not these creatures, they're not the beautiful things. They're these hideous creatures that are seeking to devour them. The image is the idea of the very thing that lures them in, the light they seek, becomes the very thing of their destruction. Or in this case, they escape it. But that's the picture we get with false light. Things that might draw us in that are actually pulling us away. Someone asked the question when we're talking about renaming our church to New Light. They asked the question, what's wrong with the old light? And raises a whole lot of questions. What is the old light and what do we mean by that? And I think on one level I would say there is lots of things we would say are light or an idea of light in this world. Lots of things that pull us towards them and gives us the promise of light to us. Every religion has a positive image of light as a good thing. And so every image has that idea. But I think the reality, the good news about Jesus reminds us that anything that tells us that we need to earn our place before God, that God is going to be pleased with us if we do enough good things, anything like that actually is a false light, because we will never be able to earn our place before God. And so this idea, in fact, what it's doing, that very idea is drawing us towards our own ego and our own self-worth, that we can earn this place before God. And we can never earn a place before God. And the light of Jesus says it's actually trusting what he has done, not what we do, is the very thing that might make us right with God. And so I would say there's lots of lights in the world that aren't the true light. The new light is the true light. Or the same thing is true if we think about just seeking a good life in general. There's lots of things in our life that we would say we add light to us. Seeking to get ahead in life, seeking goodness for our family. There's lots of things that we would say use that image of kind of seeking light in our life. But once again, what we're reminded as we see the picture clearly shown to us in the Bible is that whenever we live for, whenever our highest priority and our highest values are things that won't last, we are investing in things that ultimately are going to let us down. I think the reality is we've come to a place where we have this mantra that says you can be all you want to be. You can overcome anything. And I think in some ways we can dangerously invest in that as an arrogance of, that's true, I can look at what I've achieved. And forget, much of what we can achieve in life is limited by our circumstances, our opportunities. It's fine to say, look, I'm good because I was able to get this job and get this income, forgetting that we have an education because of the family we were born into, the country we were born into, the opportunities and wealth we have. And we pile this all together to kind of say, I can be my own light. I can make this light. And as soon as we're investing in that, I think we're investing in a false light that leads us into darkness. The new light is the true light. And the picture we get from the Bible is that Jesus is the eternal light. So in one sense, he's not new. But the language is that there's an inbreaking of Jesus when he is born as a human. There's an inbreaking of this light into the darkness that has a newness to it. And so he is the new light in a dark world. And he's the new light in a dark life. Jesus' words are, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will have the light of life. That's the picture that Jesus gives us. That he is the new light in a dark life. And because of that, putting our trust in him means we can be free from trying to earn our place before God. That serving God becomes a response of joy as a result of relationship rather than servitude, rather than slavery as a desire to please. Or following him leads us to a purpose that goes beyond the brokenness of our world, so that when we are trying to achieve things that fail, we can put our trust in his greater purpose and eternity. Jesus is the light, the new light in a dark world. He's a new light in a dark life. And he calls us to be a new light in a dark neighborhood. John tells us that Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Matthew tells us that Jesus said, you are the light of the world. This is the Bible passage we read. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. Have you ever thought about how profound that idea is, that Jesus called himself, I am the light of the world, but also said of his people, you are the light of the world. I mean, it's not just, we see those exact words in English. When we look at the ancient Greek that the Bible was written in, the New Testament was written in, it's the exact same words. It's phos tu cosmo, light of the cosmos, light of the world. The exact same words Jesus says about himself, he says about those who follow him. The picture we get here is that when you are united in Jesus, you are so connected into the very source of light that you yourself should begin to radiate that light. That we are so united to the Creator, the Maker, who is himself light, that we might also be light. That's why we can play a video that sings the songs, the words, "There is a light," and show footage of our church. I mean, the song is clear. His name is Jesus. And without Jesus, it is nothing. But it seems like quite an arrogant thing, doesn't it, to say, "You are the light of the world. I am the light of the world." And in our brokenness, we know that often we aren't shining that light, that we're not perfect lights of this world. But there is a radiating of Jesus through us that we might be a light to those around us. You are the light of the world. And this passage says it should be impossible for you to hide. Uses the language, a city on a hill cannot be hidden. We like to go up to the Blue Mountains a fair bit and stay there all day, come down after dark. And so as you come down the Blue Mountains, you get glimpses of the city, right? And you see the street lights out there. So as a family, we always call that fairyland. That's where all the fairies live out there. And so, that's what you see. That's this looks like a city of fairies. What's interesting about the idea of a city, and Jesus is not talking about Sydney, obviously, and it's not electricity lights that he's talking about, but a city that has got lights in it, it's not any one light that is creating that look, right? It's many lights. When you're out and you look out of a lookout at night in the Blue Mountains, you don't see a whole lot, but if there is a light out in the valley, you might see it. But a city of lights is unavoidable. There's a similar picture when we think about what God's people are together, that we are a city on a hill, a city of lights together shining the light. It should be impossible for us to hide. And it's our purpose to shine, Jesus says. He says, "No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket." The very purpose of lighting the lamp is to shine that light. We are renaming to New Light Anglican, and this is our heart for our church, that we might be a light, knowing that we're not perfect, knowing that we have brokenness, but working hard to be a light to the world around us. And so that's what we're going to do. We've been talking about this throughout the year, but we decided we just kind of need to draw a line in the sand and say, pick a day, and from that day we're going to start calling ourselves New Light Anglican Church. So today is the day. Yep, that's the plan. It will be weird. It will be hard. I've already said it wrong multiple times. And so we're gonna try that process. Here's what's going to happen from here on out. We have a new website, newlightanglican.church. That's live already, but we're going to redirect other stuff to that. So we're already findable on the internet. We will start printing some of the stuff that needs to go around here. We don't have a logo yet, and so we are using an orange colour as a warm image of light, and we're using the text New Light Anglican Church, and we're still working on some of the details, but we're going to move forward with what we've got. We are going to do this as part of our Christmas promotions this year. So the idea of a light has dawned, thinking about Christmas. And so we're going to run a Christmas mission. Miles has already talked about it, but partnering with the National Training Event team, we're going to, if you give us the next slide, Charlie, we're going to put out our Christmas brochure that will promote, it'll promote both our Christmas events and also our name change. And so we're going to print more flyers than we've ever printed before. So every year we print a whole heap. We invite everyone to letterbox around the area. We're going to up that more. We're going to have the NTE guys help us with that. So we're going to distribute as much as we can, try to tell as many people as we can about the rename. One of our concerns with this process is for people who, say, came to us last Christmas and haven't interacted with us since, will they still be able to find out about our services if they're looking for us online? We want to try to do all that as well as we can so that people can still connect with us. And we want to let people know, as we try to build our identity as a church that is shining a bright and positive light out into our community. All that stuff is not the main thing. The main thing actually is that we are looking to the light of Jesus, being transformed by the light of Jesus, and that his light is transforming us to be lights. The practicalities of what might mean for a name for us is secondary to actually the reality of being genuine in our faith and genuinely seeking God and loving him and loving our world around us. So let me finish with the words of verse 15, which is a reminder of our light, our purpose as a light. It says, "A lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house." That's our desire for a church, that we might be a light in the world around us. Let me pray. Lord God, we thank you that you are the light that broke the darkness, and that you invite us into you, that we might be so connected to the source of light that we ourselves might radiate your light. We pray, Lord, that that would be true of us as individuals. We pray that that would be true of us as a church. In your name, amen.